I have just bought Arturia's FX Collection 5. I'll tell you why I bought it, and I suspect my reason may not be as obvious as you may think. I will of course tell you how much I paid for it. No, this is absolutely not sponsored in any way, shape or form, and I will make some comments on Arturia's pricing system. Now, just before we get rolling, I'm making this in the middle of June. The FX Collection 5 is currently on an introductory offer which ends on the 7th of July. So if you're watching this sometime in the future and you want a good deal, I suggest you wait until it comes on offer again, as it will inevitably. Now, this collection contains 34 effects, so if I was going to attempt to cover all of them, we'd be here till Christmas, by which time it's probably gone on offer again. But there are lots of audio demos on Arturia's site, and I'm sure some people will do more in-depth reviews. So all I'm going to do here is to run some sounds through some of the effects to give you a bit of an idea of what some of them sound like. But I will of course try to pull everything together and give you my thoughts on the collection. If you want to jump straight to the demos, you can do so by jumping to this position in the timeline, but I have to say I think the chat and the information will be far more informative and interesting than just listening to the demos. And if you are thinking of buying this, or actually anything else from Arturia, I will show you a little hack, if you like, which should allow you to save money depending on where you are in the world. So to start at the beginning, I first bought FX Collection 3. So we're going back a couple of years, but it was one of those cases where Arturia made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I can't remember exactly how much it was. It may have been around 99 euros, maybe 150 euros. I'm not sure I would have gone as high as 200 euros. Anyway, I bought FX Collection 3 for two reasons. Now, if you remember back to those days, Arturia was promoting this with the tagline, "Effects you will actually use." Now, this was very appealing to me. If you're anything like me, well, in a musical way, of course, you will probably have accumulated a lot of EQs and compressors and limiters and reverbs and delays and goodness knows what else. Some you may have bought, some come in bundles. There's a massive number of free effects out there. I think every software producer has given away a compressor, a limiter, EQ, whatever. I have dozens of the things, and when I'm putting a piece of music together, if I need an effect like that, then I pick one, and if it works and if I like it, then I just tend to stick with that one. So if I were to get any more, they're probably just going to sit gathering dust or virtual dust on the hard drive. But I thought it would be really good to have an integrated set of effects, so the blurb pulled me in. However, the trigger to make me buy this was actually because I wanted, wait for it, one plugin, and it was one effect which really pushed me into buying FX3, and that effect was fragments. It's a granular processor and it can do some really interesting things with sound, many of them very musical, ideal I would suggest for ambient and the like. So just to touch on price for 1 second, the cost of fragments at the time, I can't remember what it was, but it just absolutely did not make sense when spending a little bit more would get me the whole package. So that is how I ended up getting FX3. Now, for some reason, Arturia seems to have dropped that tagline and is using the phrase reference effects for music makers. I think I prefer the other one. At least it made me buy the collection. So FX5 has 4 new effects over FX4. There were 24 effects in FX3, so I am getting 10 new effects for, yes, how much did I pay for it? Well, if you are an existing Arturia customer, if you log into your account, you will probably find a special deal waiting for you. In my case, I could upgrade from 3 to 5 for 99 euros or $99. So one way to look at this would be to say that I was getting 10 effects for around $10 each, which seemed pretty reasonable. Now the normal price for this is 500 euros or dollars. The introductory price, if you don't have FX Collection at all and need to buy it from scratch, is currently $400 or euros, which makes each effect around 11 or 12 euros, which is a pretty good deal, but only if you are going to use them. So before I say too much more about that, or the money, or how to save money, let me play some demos for you. Now, I have set up 3 sounds in my DAW. I have a piano sound, I have a pad sound, and I imported one of my music tracks called Beautiful Dreams. It's from quite a while ago. If you subscribe to the channel and listen to my music, you may have heard it. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I thought it would be interesting to see what effect some of these effects have on an entire mix. There are 4 new additions to FX5, Bus Exciter, Bus Peak, and 2 creative effects, EFX Motions and EFX Refract. I shall be looking at those in a moment. So let's start with the piano sound and one of the new effects, which is the Bus Exciter, which I think is supposed to duplicate or emulate the EFX Exciter. Essentially, I'm just going to play stuff and step through the presets. Now let's try the pad. And just to see what happens, let's run the song through it.
Beautiful, beautiful dreams.
Heavy low pass filter there. Another exciting sort of exciter effect is Roland's Dimension D, which is actually a chorus unit, but it was in great vogue in the 80s, and this is also included in the FX collection and was in fact in FX collection 3.
Beautiful, beautiful dreams.
I think that's a really great effect. Just be careful with your preset selection if you want to put it on an entire mix. So just before we move on, these are the effects, all of them, and you can see that they are prefixed with the type of effect they are. EFX for the creative effects, BUS for bus effects, distortion, reverb, delay, and so on. So this makes them quite easy to find in Adobe. And in Cubase here, for example, if you type BUS and hit the spacebar, then you get a list of the bus effects from the Arturia collection. So this is a great way to find all the Arturia effects. This is another new one, the Bus Peak. It's a limiter with tone controls. It's essentially a mastering plug-in. Arturia has an excellent demo of this on its YouTube channel, so if you want more in-depth information, I would heartily recommend you go to watch that. I will run a couple of sounds through it very briefly, just because I said I would, but I'm not actually doing a proper demo of it. Of course, you really need to hit a peak in order for it to kick in, so I shall run the song through and adjust the levels.
Beautiful, beautiful dreams.
Definitely watch the Arturia video to find out more about that. But speaking of enhancers and exciters, this is Bus Force, which is a sonic enhancer. It includes compression and distortion. It's a parallel processor and gives you a lot of control over the sound, and its aim is to make anything sound better, says Arturia. But one of the things I really like about this is the visual display. I have a little bit more to say about this later. This is the Bus Diode 609, a compressor limiter based on Neve hardware.
Beautiful, beautiful dreams.
Just to point out that any crackles and glitches you hear throughout this entire demo are caused by me changing preset. They are absolutely not caused by the effects, which have behaved perfectly throughout my experiments with them. This is Refract. It's one of the new creative effects. It sort of splits the sound into different sections and then processes them in different ways. Modulation, pitch shifting, all sorts of stuff. Some really interesting effects come out of this. Let's have a listen. Probably not something you want to put on a mix, but let's try it anyway.
Beautiful dreams.
Was I right or was I right? But some super sounds on pads and other instruments. Must try it on drums. Right, so this is the other new creative effect. It's called Motions, and well, it produces motion in the music or whatever you're playing through it. Oh, that's interesting. That's hilarious. Okay. I thought it would be fitting and interesting, of course, to finish with the plugin which started my FX journey, and that is Fragments. It has a mass of presets, and of course, like all the effects, you really need to get in there and tweak the settings to see what you can fully do with it. But in keeping with the rest of this demo, I'm just going to play some sounds and step through some of the presets. Yes, like many of the creative effects, they are not ideal candidates for applying to a final mix, but at least we tried. But they do produce some fantastic sounds and effects when applied to pads and other sounds. So you may have guessed that I primarily upgraded to FX5 for the creative effects. Now, although all the other effects which are emulating hardware units look absolutely superb, I'm not an audio engineer, so I don't have any history with any of these units. And to be honest, I much prefer the visual display of software rather than on-screen knobs. It just makes more sense to me. Now, if you have a history of using hardware units or just like the idea of using hardware emulations, I'm sure our opinions will be reversed. Now, I have to say, I have not even tried all the effects in FX3, so whether or not I'll get through all the effects in FX5 is anyone's guess. I do really want to try to get through them because I am sure there are some superb effects here just waiting to be tweaked and used. So before wrapping up, let me just say a few words about pricing. I find this very interesting, and I was discussing it with a friend of mine who said, yes, it's a typical marketing ploy. Now, if you look on the Arturia website, I think just about all the effects individually are priced at €99.99 each, which means the FX Collection 5 is worth around $3.5 grand. Now, pardon my hysterical laughter. Where do marketing companies come up with these figures? Just, roll the dice and see what happens. But Arturia's prices have crept up over the years. However, that's probably not really the point. The point is, who is going to pay $100 or €100 for one effect when for the price of 4 effects they can get 34? Answers on a postcard, please. This is one of the reasons why I bought FX3, even though I really only wanted the one effect. So I think this is good marketing, it's a good ploy, it's a good strategy from Arturia. Now, apart from that, if you look at the price of other effects, I know some companies charge way more than $100 for some of their effects, but are these all worth $100? Well, if you've seen some of my other videos, you will know my thoughts and opinions on that. And oh yes, I promised you a little hack. I made a video about this. I shall link to it in the description. I'll pop a card up there. So I used this to buy the FX5 upgrade. I bought it in dollars after PayPal fees. It cost me, I think, just a little bit under £83. So in summary, if we need one, I absolutely love Arturia software. I think they do a fantastic job of emulating hardware gear. I love their synthesizers, and I think they've done a great job with these effects as far as I can tell. Not being an audio engineer, I have no direct experience of any of these hardware units. As for the initial tagline, effect you will actually use, well, in my situation, that did not turn out to be the case. Perhaps Arturia realised that and changed the blurb. So what do you think of FX5? Is this something you're going to buy? Is it something you have already bought? Do you use all the effects in it? Do you have any favourites? Anything which you think I should really look at? As always, thank you so much for watching. There is a subscribe button down there if you do not already subscribe, and a big thumb button. Hitting one or both of those would be a massive help. Thank you very much for doing that. I will see you again in the next video.